everyone. I'm Christine Leander, and I'm speaking to you from the Swedish Club. We're going to introduce Madison Laird in just a few minutes, but let me just tell you that in this era of COVID, one of the things that we dislike the most, in addition to not being able to get together, but it's this darn wearing of a mask. But Madison has made it not only fun, but fashionable, not only fashionable, but fun. And so we've invited her here tonight to talk to you about it. So Madison.
Hi, everybody. We got our Swedish pride going on today, of course. One of the best of the Norse masks. So since we're socially distant, I'm going to go ahead and take that off and show for you guys what I have prepared. So we'll go ahead and get started with our little PowerPoint. Okay, Norse Mask. Our motto is protection with pride. And we're going to talk tonight about how the most necessary accessory of 2020 became a banner of hope. So here's a picture of me. My background is in fashion. I've been a fashion designer for 10 years now. That's a long time to say. So I'm primarily Norwegian. That's most of my focus for my heritage, but I also am lucky enough to have a bit of Swedish in me too, the best of all worlds. And yeah, I've always been really inspired by my heritage and from Nordic culture, not just with Norse Mask, but with my fashion designs over this last decade. And I also wanted to introduce our mascot, who is Sven, the Dale horse, who is donning a Norse mask. So why masks? 2020 was really the perfect storm. With COVID-19, we were really, as a nation, as a world, as everything, unprepared for this crazy left field mix-up that COVID-19 presented. So there were some key elements of what we needed to discover with COVID-19 in order to overcome it, or at least try to find some sense of normalcy in 2020. So we needed to figure out how it spread, how to slow it down, and how to distribute personal protective equipment, and also for the fashion industry to be able to pivot and make these changes in how we get things from manufacturers, etc. And also how to make it fun and less scary, less oppressive feeling, less doomsday-esque. So here's why every single person wearing masks matters. Right now in Seattle, we have over 72,000 cases, 297,000 in Washington, and 24.3 million in the US alone. Here are a couple situations where one person, unbeknownst to them, being sick, made matters worse. So here's one group on the left-hand side, a group that had choir practice. One person was infected, and they infected, unfortunately, 87% of their choir who was at practice. Here's one person going to the gym and taking part in a fitness class. You can see how many positive cases there are, how many people have to stay home, the number that has to be hospitalized, how many schools are exposed. So, it really does take all of us to come together as a community to fight COVID and to try to keep it at bay. And just because I'm a very visual person being in fashion, I like pictures. I like things that I can see. It really helps me understand the concepts behind things like wearing masks, things being enforced, etc. Just understanding what's going on in the world around us. So an MIT study did a lot of research, and I'll have all of my sources at the end of the show here. They got these great images of what a sneeze looks like. We all know what it feels like. It's not fun, but here's what it looks like, and some facts about them that a sneeze can reach up to 26 feet away and can travel up to 100 miles an hour. So sneezing in your arm, yes, it makes a difference. Wearing a mask, absolutely. You can see how tiny these little microns are. They're less, or these little droplets are. They can be less than 5 microns, and you can compare that to the human hair has a thickness of between 60 and 120. So these really are things we cannot see, and that's why it helps to have these scientists explaining it to us. Other things we can't see is the amount of bacteria on our hands. Here is a bacteria growth taken from an 8-year-old's hand, and you can just see how colorful and gross it is. Not only do things like the common cold and flus get passed through touch, but also bacteria, COVID, touching our face and having that infection on our hands. You can see at the bottom, there's a chart there of how many hours different SARS viruses can live on different objects. So coronavirus can be in the air for 3 hours, on cardboard for up to 24. For plastic, so think of any car doors or any surfaces in your household, that maybe in the kitchen or what have you, we're looking at over 72 hours. And for steel, 48. So cleaning, sanitizing, being careful to try to use your elbows to open doors and things, all can be really helpful in slowing the spread. And also in studies that were done with hairdressers actually doing haircuts, they discovered it takes less than 15 minutes of exposure to spread from person to person. Obviously, it's hard to put an exact time on that, but think about running into your neighbor who you haven't seen for 6 months face to face and thinking, oh, it's just an innocent little chit chat. That can be a big difference in the weeks to come as far as the outlook of your health. And also, wearing a mask really does help. There have been communities of people working in laboratories even that have shown that it can decrease your likelihood of risk by up to 70%. I like science, I like facts, so I'm not just sourcing my things from Twitter or Reddit or what have you. I'm really doing my best to show what professional scientists, as I'm a fashion designer, not a scientist, what they have shown us. So how do we slow the spread? What are some easy things we can do? Maintain that social distance. If you feel like you could reach out and touch somebody's fingertips, you're probably too close. As we said, those surfaces can be really dangerous. You can have bacteria and COVID on there between 48, 72 hours or more. So keeping your house clean, washing your hands and using hand sanitizer with the appropriate amount of alcohol in it, and then also wearing a mask. But only perfect use of perfect masks make perfect. So incorrectly wearing your mask, as you can see in that bottom left-hand corner, there's a breathing pattern. That circle behind that gentleman is actually a mirror, and they're using thermal imaging in order to capture his breathing. So you can see without a mask how the air is exposed, and then with the mask under his nose, it's just as bad, if not worse. To the right, you can see somebody sneezing with no mask, with a cloth mask, with a single layer on the top right, with 2 layers on the bottom left, and with a surgical mask on the bottom right. So as you can see, having 2 layers of fabric covering your mouth and nose really does make a huge difference compared to just covering your mouth or not wearing a mask at all. Here are a couple examples. Again, I love visuals because, come on, science in middle school was great when you got to see things, touch things, and I just want to relive that. So here's bacteria spread with droplets from a gentleman standing and speaking over these little dishes, these little petri dishes. So you can see a sneeze, someone singing, talking, or 2 coughs. On the left-hand side is with no mask, and on the right-hand side is with masks. I As I said, I will give you all my sources. This gentleman did the test at different distances away. So you can go into more depth with how safe things are at 2 feet, 6 feet, 10 feet, if you're curious about that. And also just a little bit of a breakdown, because I feel like this whole visual and lifestyle change of wearing a mask can be really scary for some of us, or very daunting. And just it kind of shows you how much of a difference wearing a mask can make, and how to slow the spread, and what we can do to minimize our risks of getting it. So fabrics, here we go. Here's my area of expertise. A lot of people don't really know about fabric and what fabric's made out of. So on the left-hand side, you can see there are different types of weaves of fabric. This is how the individual threads are woven together to create the cloth. On the left-hand side, you have woven material. Think of something like a dress shirt or blouse that isn't stretchy. That's going to be woven material. Knit material. Think of things like t-shirts or maybe some sweatpants, those things that have that little bit of stretch in there that make them very comfortable, but not so great for masks. Because the material stretches, it creates holes in between the fibers, which allows for things like COVID to get through. So on the right-hand side, you can see we have two different types of fabric. There's polyester fabric and cotton fabric. Cotton fabric, a lot of the times people think of t-shirts or undergarments, socks. Cotton's very moisture wicking, which makes it more comfortable, but it also plays a role in destabilizing the virus. So cotton absorbs the moisture in our breath, and without being in the moisture, the virus withers. Whereas with polyester, because there's no absorption of the moisture, it sits there. Also, if it just sits there and it doesn't absorb or go anywhere, it can make the mask wet if you're sweating enough. And that also helps COVID from other people's breath or sneezes or what have you stick to the fabric. So cotton really is your only viable option for actual protection. And if you don't have any idea of what cotton versus polyester feels like or looks like, you can go in your closet and look at some tags in there. Professional clothing manufacturers and retailers in the US by law have to have the fiber content on their tag, as well as the country of origin or manufacturing. So you can learn a lot about fabric just by taking a trip to your closet. So just as a review, what should your mask have? You want your mask to be made out of 100% woven cotton or silk. Silk can be better for people who have sensitive skin. It breathes just as well and is woven just as tightly. And the CDC has said that silk is just as acceptable as cotton. Unfortunately, it can be a little bit of a price difference, so cotton's probably a little bit more accessible for an everyday mask. You want your mask to fit snugly and comfortably. Make sure it covers the nose and mouth, and you want it secured snugly with ear ties or loops, whatever's most comfortable for you. And you want to make sure, again, that there's more than one layer of fabric. We saw that image earlier on that really showed how much of a difference that second layer of fabric can make. You also want to be able to comfortably breathe. And also you want to make sure that it's something that is washable. So if it's got rhinestones glued on it, or if it's vinyl and is going to melt and isn't breathing correctly, you probably just want to save those for decoration. So before COVID, before the era of the pandemic, this is what I was doing. I've been creating custom gowns and all sorts of clothes, everything from bridal to menswear, everything in between. So this is kind of a little snapshot of what my life looked like before COVID. I've also been working on bringing old Nordic folklore into the 21st century. So on the left-hand side, you can see some images inspired from the fairy tale of Bear King Valamon. And on the right, there's a story of the Ash Lad and the Huldra, who is seducing him to his death. So I've always, like I said, had an inspiration from my Nordic heritage, and that's always been a real keystone of my creations. So why Norse Mask? When I heard the news earlier in 2020 that a pandemic was coming, it was inevitable, it's here in the US, people will be affected, I was really heartbroken because the first thing I thought of was family and family gatherings and what we'd be missing out on. And in the Norwegian community, there's the 17th of May, which is our Constitution Day, which is a day where family gets together, you dress up, you meet in person, and it's like one of those few days a year that you just mark out on your calendar at the beginning of the year. It's something to always look forward to. And I was really crushed and depressed at the fact that I wasn't going to be able to see my family or have that yearly celebration to look forward to. Also, 17th of May brings forward what the Norwegian flag means to me as a Norwegian American. There's this sense of family, unity, community, pride, strength, all of these things. And in my family, being Norwegian is something that we're very proud of. So I kind of wanted to think, how can I bring my skill set and my talents and my know-how to our community to give people safety and comfort in this crazy time? So at first, you go to a fabric store and there's nothing on the shelves. Sourcing was a great challenge. You couldn't buy fabric online. Getting something shipped from overseas, you were looking at least a 2-month wait because all of the borders were shut down. COVID was just, as I'm sure you have all felt with your holiday shipping, it's making things take a little longer than normal. Also, shopping at fabric stores, there were problems I was running into, like you could only buy so many yards of this or only so much elastic. Things that didn't really let me scale my production to bring safety to more than just my household. So I got creative and I thought, okay, we're looking for cotton. We're looking for a particular thread count. And I started to look around the house and I realized if I ordered pre-made bed sheets from Amazon for the first little while until fabric availability had increased, that was the best way for me to get safe, and you know, it's also says on the label what the fibers are, what the weave is, all of those sorts of things. It's not like just going to Goodwill or going to a fabric store and feeling it. Like I knew what I was getting online and I could check that it met regulations. Also, looking into filter material, there was just a huge outpour of amazing resources in the sewing and fashion community. People were sharing patterns. People were sharing what was working for them, what wasn't working for them, where they were resourcing things. So it was just really incredible to see that community come together and so many people donate masks to frontline workers, to school teachers, to people who really needed it. I think, you know, one of the few silver linings of 2020 was seeing that real sense of community. So here we are crafting the masks. So Caleb, my fiance in that picture there, he was actually the person whose face inspired my pattern. Because being at home, I knew I couldn't fit things on my own face and see them and adjust things as well as I could on someone else. So we took some measurements, we made up a couple of rough drafts, if you will, and he gave me feedback on how things like the elastic was fitting, the straps were fitting, ease of breathing, moving, talking, yawning, because we all know we want our mask to stay on even in those embarrassing moments. So he's kind of the face behind the pattern of the mask. You can see there's some pictures of me cutting there, stitching together the first Norwegian flag, making some Danish ones. There's some production of Swedish, Icelandic, all the different flags. We even rebranded from Laren Designs to Norse Mask. So there are some of our stickers there inspired with colors and floral patterns from my bunad, which is the Norwegian folk dress. And then also, I thought, well, the Norwegians, the Swedish, the Danish, they can't be the only people in the world who want a sense of community and familiarity during this time. So I started trying to make new things. And you can see an example there of that Welsh flag. That was our first attempt at the Welsh flag. So I was cutting with a machine fabric in different patterns. And I just realized it's not quite where I want it to be. It wasn't quite meeting my standards. So we got an embroidery machine. And you can see here, these are all different types of embroidery. There's the Mexican flag mask. That one has 45 different colors in it, and it takes 3 hours to embroider. There's the rose smalling example on the left-hand side. That one has 14 different colors and takes 45 minutes. There's the Quebec flag. Goyul was one of our holiday bestsellers. There's the Sami flag, the Greenland flag. We just really wanted a sense of everybody being able to have a beautiful resemblance of their customs, their culture, their flag. And so with that, it was learning a new machine. It was learning a new embroidery software. There was a lot of just, yeah, we can do it, and we'll figure out how as we were starting to do things. But it was a really fun learning experience, going from just, making wedding dresses to being like, oh my gosh, okay, I have this software that's specifically created for this single purpose. Now, how the heck do I use it? So here's kind of a rundown of what a Norse mask looks like. We have things like nose bridges available. There's mask locks available too for both elastics and our ribbon straps that hold it to a specific tightness that you don't have to tie a bow behind your head or do any sort of crazy gymnastics. There's filter sleeves available too, so that you can put more filters in there if you're traveling, if you're somebody with a compromised immune system, or if you just want that little extra sense of protection. We have strap options as well, so that anybody can have their particular mask, whether they're more comfortable with ear elastics, straps, depending on their hairstyle, their outfit, whatever they want that day. So we really took a lot of time to kind of reinvent what the mask could look like for everybody and have all of these custom options available on the website so you can get exactly what you're looking for in a mask. And also offering kids and what we like to call Viking size. So the 17th of May actually did turn out to have quite a comeuppance, a resurgence of what I expected this year to look like. Communities from around the world were sending in these images, people marching down the streets in Ballard, people making sandwiches all over. And it was just so incredible to feel like not only was I a part of the community and a resource for people to be safe and to show their pride off, but that in a lot of ways, it was a new way for people to show off their Norwegian pride on 17th of May. And that the celebrations, the holiday wasn't completely lost this year. And not only the holiday, but around the world now. I've been sending masks to Spain, Iceland, Mexico, US, Canada, and all over the US, Florida, New Jersey, Utah, you name it. We've sent out over 4,000 custom-made masks, resembling flags from all around the world, and even regionally, like the Cascadia flag there. We've been doing some for businesses like Rumors Cabaret, Maple Drinks, Fernet Branca, Brennivin, all sorts of brands. And we've also had some really interesting new options and opportunities for Norse Mask and Laren Designs. You can see on the left there's 2 images of this model in black and white. This was the first remote shooting of a fashion brand in Seattle. So actually what we had happen was the model did her hair and makeup and put on my designs, both the dresses and the mask. And then the photographer gave her mom, who was holding the iPhone, directions as to where to hold the camera, how to turn the camera, all of those sorts of things. So it was a completely socially distant, safe shoot. You know, the photographer was in a different town. So that was a really interesting way to see how the fashion industry has been adapting to these new changes. Also now having an embroidery machine, we've found a lot of work doing custom embroidered things like masks, also aprons for different companies, small companies too, that are based here in Seattle. We've been able to do some fundraisers as well. There's a picture there of Jen, who's a local Seattle bartender who is dealing with cancer. And we were able to embroider shirts of a bartender who passed away last year, who is a very active community member, and then to sell those and give the proceeds to Jen to help fight her cancer, not only just, you know, physically, but also, hey, you know, the fight for the bankruptcy and the fight for the costs of that. So it's been really fun to like see new ways of how masks can give back and how to come together as a community. On the bottom there, you can see we've had some in-person holiday markets. They looked a little different this year, either being outside or socially distanced with masks. But, you know, still people are able to celebrate and come together and have a little bit maybe less illustrious, but still fun holiday season. And also on the bottom right there, I've been able to create branded in-person socially distant events. So this was a filming of an amazing concert where the musicians were all standing 6 feet apart performing, and we're able to kind of have another element of visual communication on their face. And these are all the different places where you can find Norse Mask, pardon me. We're selling at the Nordic Museum, Scandinavian Specialties, Skull Beer Hall, Bien Bakery, Friday afternoon, on Etsy, of course, the Virtual Scandinavian Fest, Brennivin, and of course on NorseMask.com. So we've really come together and found members of the community who are supporting small businesses, and in turn that we can then help support by giving their customers locally made Scandinavian American quality masks. As I said, I promised sources. I'd be happy to send all of these out to anybody. If you'd like to click the links and read the stories yourself, I'll make sure that they're also up on NorseMask.com. And that's the story of how we came to be in 2020. And then if you guys have any questions, let me see, I'm kind of new to Zoom, so I'm gonna learn how to unmute everybody, and then you can share if you have questions. Let me see here. Or I think you should be able to unmute yourselves as well. I can hear some of you, I think.
Actually, each person needs to unmute themselves if they want to speak.
Okay, thank you. That's
On
helpful.
the lower left corner, folks.
There we go. I'm often on the attending side, but not so much on the presenting side of Zoom. So does anybody have any questions for me? So I make these all in my little studio up in Northgate in Seattle. And when production was crazy, meaning a couple thousand masks a month, there's also a studio down near the stadiums where I had one other seamstress joining me. And then I have one other seamstress, so a total of 3 people's hands throughout the entire process. But all of the masks were coming through my house. I was doing quality control. Caleb, my fiance, was helping me package them and everything. So every single of over 4,000 masks has passed through my hands. All made here in Seattle. Awesome. Well, if there's no other questions, oh, hey, Hokon, nice mask.
Hi, yeah, I'm wearing one right now.
That looks great on you.
There you go.
I got
Where are
mine.
you filming this from?
We need a group picture after all this craziness.
There you go.
That's great,
There you
Eric.
go.
And did you get to make examples of the ones that we talked about?
I have those coming over to you tomorrow, Chris.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think these would be good to sell at the club too, you know. If we could get somehow, you know, to especially if we start having dinners again and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I love your idea too of putting the 3 little crowns on there. I think that would be amazing on those masks.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Definitely a great idea. Awesome. Well, if you guys do have any other questions or need anything customized, feel free to reach out to me. My email's on norsemask.com. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, all of those sorts of things as well. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time back over to Christine. Thank you so much.
You
There
very
you go.
much.
Well, we say thank you so much, Madison. What a fascinating talk.
Yeah, it was just a little presentation that she gave.
Yes, amazing. I think we need to add the Swedish Club as another place where you can get your Norse mask in the Swedish style. We're going to have a takeout Swedish pancake breakfast February 7th. So let's talk about whether we can have those for sale then, Madison. That would be fun. Our next members program, which is what this would be if this were not COVID, is February 17th. And we are going to have a descendant of Chief Seattle here that evening. We don't know whether we will be in person or totally on Zoom or both, but you'll have to stay tuned. We look forward to hearing what Ken Workman has to say about the Duwamish people, and particularly the Duwamish people that inhabited right where we are now. So thank you very much for coming. We're going to put this presentation on YouTube so you can find a link on our website. Give us a couple days to make that happen, and then you'll be able to go back, show your friends, and enjoy this talk again. Once again, thank you very much, Madison. It's a wonderful talk. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.